Howdy, and welcome back. It's yet another Workshop Wednesday. This one's beyond the basics, so it's a little bit more of a deep dive skill, and we're going to talk about how to grab your cart value, revenue, price from different pages. So, of course, you can report e-commerce information to platforms like Facebook or Google Analytics. First, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. Maybe you found us through our podcasts and talks that we give, maybe through some of the platforms that we work with, or maybe you're already a member, whether a Toolbox member or a Measurement Marketing Academy member at measurementmarketing.io. However you found us, welcome. Happy that you are here. It's our job to help people like you figure out how to use all these tools to figure out how to measure our marketing, so we understand the conversation that our websites are having with our users, so that ultimately we can improve that conversation. And we do that with this 5-step framework. First, you plan, which is figuring out what questions you want to answer, what information you need to get the answers, what actions will you take based upon those answers. And for the skills we're going to talk about today, it is squarely in planning, because you're going to need to answer questions like, well, gee, how much did they just buy? Or what was in the cart amount? All this sort of stuff. How much was the order bump? Like, you want to be able to collect that information, and the skills we're going to talk about today will help you to do that. Then there's the build, where you're actually using Google Tag Manager, which absolutely today you're going to see that. So you can follow along with the different ways to grab price. Then there's the reports. Now that we won't talk too much about, but presumably once you've got this information collected, you can then do dashboards, whatever else you'd like with it. Ultimately, you can then forecast your benchmarks, maybe like things like average cart value, things like that. And ultimately, you can begin to optimize, to improve things, because you're going to measure against your forecasts and improve things. And that is the measurement marketing framework in a nutshell. Now, with all of these trainings, just make sure you focus on one new thing, one skill, one maybe different thing that you haven't seen before, one new thing you can practice. I'm going to cover a bunch of different things, different techniques that you can use to grab price, because I think it's always good to start simple and then you get a little more complicated if you have to. So hopefully you'll get at least one new thing from our little adventure together today. All right. Beyond basics, how to get cart value and revenue from your pages. And of course, we're also really talking about price here. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in, and we're going to give some examples of why we want to do this to start. So we're in a little demo container, and sometimes in Tag Manager, and remember, this is a Beyond the Basics workshop, so we're assuming you already know Tag Manager and the basic stuff. This is an example of a data layer push, and regardless whether you're pushing it in there so you can report it to Facebook later, and maybe you need the value of price, like in this case, price is hard-coded, right? It's this $9.99 here. It's hard-coded, but maybe that's not what we need. Maybe we can't do a hard-coded price. Now, if we can, this is it. You just hard code it and you're off to the races. It's good enough to get going and it'll work. So that's kind of the, cheater's way to do it, but I think it's feasible. Like, hey, if it gets the job done, do it. It's just not flexible at all. And really, we want to be flexible on price, because sometimes people in the site themselves, the dev teams, or maybe other marketers on your team, or maybe just you, changes the price of things. And you want your measurement system to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening. So if it works that you can just do a fixed amount and you hard code it in there like this, great, just do that. Report it back to the pixel, push it into the data layer, whatever you need to do, then you're off to the races. But sometimes, again, you really need to have a variable in there. So that's what we're going to talk about, is like, how do we grab this value of price, especially when it might change from time to time, especially a lot of carts where they have like order bumps, and you click on the box and then the total changes, and you need to be able to grab that information. So how can we go forth and do that? So we're going to talk about a few different techniques. I personally always start with the simplest possible way of doing it, with the least amount of pieces involved, because I think that's always going to be your most elegant solution. You just want it to be as flexible as possible. It's not always, possible to do that, but it sometimes is. Now, one of those ways is I come to, let's say, the Academy, and I'm going to bring up the order form for the Academy here. Close this out for a moment. So in the Academy, I've got the order form, and if somebody came down, it was $97 a month. If they buy the Measurement Marketing Academy, they go to complete the purchase, and they arrive on the thank you page. Now, this is specifically to report an e-commerce amount, like, say, to Google Analytics or to Facebook or some other ad platform. I would want to know at the thank you page that they purchased $97. That's what I need to know. I don't need to know at the cart, because they really haven't purchased. At best, it's like intent to purchase maybe, but that they haven't purchased. So I would actually wait for the thank you page to load up. And then what I do is I look for the thank you page to report the details, so that I can have my measurement system read those details from the thank you page and then report e-commerce, right? Again, either to Facebook, Google Analytics, both, what have you. Now, how we do that with Infusionsoft, let me go into our Infusionsoft setup, and this is actually how this is the exact order form, is I go into, now this is specific to Infusionsoft, so regardless of what platform you're using, just sort of take this as the technique that we're using and kind of think about it like, maybe you can do this, maybe you can't. It depends upon your tech, but I wanted you to at least have it in your arsenal of different ways to think through this. So here we've got our thank you page. This is the actual thank you page, and then you'll notice all of this stuff right here. There's a SKU. There's the price, in this case, $97. There's the product name, Measurement Marketing Academy. So we have all of these values that are passed over as parameters in the URL on the thank you page. And then what we tell our system, our tag manager system, is, okay, when you see an order ID, which happens because in Infusionsoft, when you check this little box, it'll pass through the order ID as well. When you see the order ID, then we know an e-commerce transaction had occurred. Go look in the variable or in the parameter and grab the value for price. Now, how do we do that with Tag Manager? It's super simple, super simple. We're going to do a URL variable. So you would come into your variables. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one here. We come down to URL variable, and you tell Infusionsoft, go query for the parameter. In this case, we called the parameter price. So we're going to type in go query in the URL, look for the parameter of price, and return back with that value. And that's literally how we grab our pricing from there. It actually doesn't happen on the cart page. It happens on the thank you page when they arrive on the thank you page. And Infusionsoft, or the tag manager, I should say, tells the system, say, go into the URL, go look for the parameter of price, and then $97 is what would be returned because $97 is the value of this parameter. Now, if this parameter price was called Bugs Bunny, then I would type in Bugs Bunny as the parameter. It goes, look for the parameter called Bugs Bunny, and then return back whatever the value of that is. But in this case, we just call it price to keep things simple. Now, this works really well for us because we have fixed values. Again, we have that challenge of, well, we've solved one challenge, which is this can, sort of be flexible because if we decide to change the price in the order form, I could change the price here. If I decide to make it $197 a month, we can just change it to $197 a month here. And the system, the measurement system, adapts because it's getting its value from whatever is being passed through in the URL. Obviously, we don't want to do that in this case, but it's flexible, right? The measurement system is adapting. It's better than hard coding the data layer push itself, right, and doing it in Tag Manager because we don't have to actually go into Tag Manager. We just go into Infusionsoft and we change our price, and it works, and it works well. And for us, that's pretty much what we need to do. However, there are going to be times where maybe just because your tag doesn't allow that, or just because you want to pick up the price at an earlier place, that you can do that. So, for example, in the cart, right? If I wanted to see this $97 and I wanted to do it at the cart page, how would I do that? Stay tuned for that answer because I'm gonna walk you through that. Now, that is using a slightly more advanced variable in Google Tag Manager. It's called a custom JavaScript variable. And I do want to point out that all of you that are Toolbox members, remember that is our free membership, and obviously the Measurement Marketing Academy members, which is our paid membership, you all have access to the custom JavaScript template toolbox kit that's back there. So go into your toolbox. Again, all of the members, free or paid, have access to this. So go into your toolbox membership and you can see all this different stuff, including grabbing the value of an element from the page. So you can see how we can do that here. So this is what I'm going to show you how to do in just a moment. But first, before we go into custom JavaScript variables, which are going to be super useful, they're just a little bit more complicated. So I want to take some time to explain that. First, I want to go through and talk about another simple way of kind of getting through the site here. So I'm going to go into the demo site. Now, in this case, WordPress, there are certain plugins that you might be able to use. Shopify has certain apps that you might be able to use that can do this work for you. If you have the option of doing a plugin or an app or some sort of built-in integration that gets the job done, I like those. I always try to do those. So if I have a WooCommerce store, which is what this demo site has been set up for, it's like a WooCommerce store. And if I wanted to go into, let's say let's go into a page. I think we have a little shop page. We'll go to the shop page. So here in the shop page, there's my little fake product. I can go to here, learn more about it, and I can see all this different stuff. I can go to add to cart, right, and add it to cart. So all of these different things. What I really want to have happen at this point, especially if I'm using e-commerce stuff with Google Analytics, is I want all these actions being reported in the data layer so that I can pick those actions up, go tell Tag Manager, hey, send these to Google Analytics, and maybe, just maybe, I also want to tell other platforms like Facebook and everything else for retargeting purposes. So if we come back into Tag Assistant here, so I have Tag Assistant already set up with preview mode. And on our demo account, you can see this little $10 donation is where we currently are. So here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into the data layer. And I want you to take a look at the data layer. So here at this most recent point in time, this is the data layer. And you can see there's already e-commerce information. And it already has things like price equals 10. So I could create a data layer variable and grab that price out if I wanted to use it to send it off to Facebook or something like that. Again, a data layer variable would do that for me. So I just go create it, and I'll show you very quickly how to do that. So a data layer variable in this case, we would just go through. If again, this is assuming that's in the data layer, which is ideal if you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do e-commerce. And the reason I'm starting with e-commerce here is because I can't just say go grab price, because price isn't really top level. Price is a part of products, which is a part of detail, which is a part of e-commerce. So I have to tell Tag Manager where exactly this price thing is. So I'm going to get a little map to it. So it's going to be under e-commerce, then detail, then products. And then I'm going to tell it it's the first product, what they would call product 0 here, and then go grab price in product 0. So it's e-commerce, detail, products, and then price. So what it should look like is something like this: e-commerce, and then detail, and products. Move the mouse out of the way. .0, go to the first product, and then go look for price. So it'll look something similar to that. So e-commerce, .detail, .products, and then 0 price. So, oops, let's go back to my page. So we got our page here. Let's go back to our Tag Assistant. That's what I was looking for. So e-commerce, detail, products, go through products, go find price, and return that value. That's our data layer variable. That's how I pull the information back out of, let's say this is data layer variable of price. That's how I'd pull that information back out. So we have that. And again, I'm just going to re-preview this just by clicking preview. That's how we do it in the new way of preview mode. So I'm going to re-preview. It's back on our page. I'm going to go back into our shop. Let's click on a product, add it to cart, just to give us some stuff for Tag Assistant to see. So if I come in here, those are container loads. Let's go look at our data layer. So you can see there's price there, e-commerce, detail, products, price. And if I come into my variables, what I should see is my data layer variable has price 10 right there. That's where it's grabbing it from. So now I've got it in my variable for Tag Manager. I can then send it to Facebook. I can send it to Google Analytics, Google Ads, whatever I want. I can use, but now I have price from my page. So if you can grab it from your data layer through some sort of built-in integration, again, Shopify has got apps that do that. Most major platforms do. WordPress for sure does. It's the Google Tag Manager for WordPress plugin that does that integrates with WooCommerce, and it's fantastic. So highly recommended to be able to play with stuff like that. Or work with your dev team. If you have a more complicated site that's not built on a specific platform that has these integrations available, work with your dev team. Let them know what you need and say, hey, I need this information in the data layer. Then grab it out using data layer variables and do with it what you will. So that's another way to grab a price. So we talked about really 3 different ways so far. One is we just kind of do that forced push, for lack of a better word, where it's hard coded and you say, hey, I'm just going to grab price and push it in there and it's there, right? You have it and you're just making it up in Tag Manager. It gets the job done. It's just not flexible, right? That's the problem here is you got to come into Tag Manager all the time and make sure you maintain it. Another way to do that would be to adjust your thank you pages and put URLs in your thank you pages, and then you can put the parameters, not the URLs, of course URLs, but parameters in the URLs is the important point. Like here, we have price equals 97.00, and then we can do a URL variable to grab the price. It's a little bit more flexible because Tag Manager isn't really having to be updated all the time, but your URLs would have to be. But for us, this is where we stop. We like this. This works really well for us because when we edit our forms, our order forms, we naturally edit our thank you pages anyway. So this makes sense for us. This is a really good solution for us. And it's just flexible enough and useful enough for us to use. Now, if we had a WooCommerce store, like we just talked about, so I have a little store set up, a little WooCommerce example, I would use a plugin or an integration. If we had a Shopify store, I guarantee you I would be using an app because they're just out there. There's a lot of them out there. Those of you who need help with that, by the way, if you're a Measurement Marketing Academy member, just check out Win Shopify and you'll see Win Google Tag Manager for Shopify, of how to set up Shopify and measure Shopify and the apps that are available back there for you to do this. But when you have the information in the data layer, then you can just grab it whenever you need it using a data layer variable, which you just saw. Finally, this is to wrap it up, is bring out this one. This is the custom JavaScript variable. So the custom JavaScript variable here, I'm just going to grab this from the template and copy this out. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how you can grab a price from basically anything. Technically, oops, let's close this out. This is the Google Tag Manager for WordPress plugin, by the way, where you turn on Enhanced E-commerce data layer or Classic E-commerce data layer. I would imagine eventually they would have a Google Analytics 4 data layer, because of course it has a totally different format. So they would put that in there too. So this is a great plugin. Love this plugin. All right, so let's close this out. Let's go back into our order form. As an example, what if I wanted to grab the price from an order form, or maybe there was like some dynamic order form bump that was here. There was a little checkbox. Sometimes orders do that, right? They give you a little checkbox. You click on the checkbox and the price would change from 97 to like 197 if you added the thing or whatever the issue was. And you always want to grab the value of whatever that is, right? Whatever this particular thing is, this little 97 here. Well, how do we do that? First thing is we got to know where this is and kind of what it's called. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to inspect. So when that does, it opens up our Chrome DevTools, and you can see here as I kind of hover up and around how Chrome DevTools is highlighting different parts of the site. What part of the site do I want? I want the part that I right clicked on, and you will notice, and look right above the $97 here, I'm going to hover over again. You'll notice it says span.order_total, right? Order total camel case, which means lowercase o, capital T. So span.order_total. That's important because that's kind of the location of the thing that I'm trying to find, right? This little span.order_total. So what I'm going to do is I want to go tell Google Tag Manager, go into the page, go through the page, go to this particular spot and return back with the value. That's what I want it to do, span.order_total. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go into Google Tag Manager. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull that value. And I have actually done this in a different container just because this particular order form is a live order form. This is actually our order form. And I'm using a different container for this. So I'm going to show you where that is here and what this looks like. So that is right over here. So all I have done is copy and paste in a function to go through and grab the span order total. Now, I'm going to do two different versions. This is one that we like using. This is also pulled from Julius over at Analytics Media, who's got a fantastic site. I believe I'm going to show you what to Google for so you can find it. So it's extract price with Google Tag Manager. And I'm going to show you what we do here. So right here, this post is fantastic. And it will go through different JavaScript variables. He's got little codes here. You just kind of copy and paste these things out. And this is based upon what format your price is. So he's like, oh, if it's these formats, you can use this code. If it's this format, you can use this code, etc. So it depends upon the format of your code. In our case, I'm using this particular script because our format is $97 with a $sign, right? That's $97 with a $sign. How do I know that? Because if I go to the inspect, you see it says order total and then that value of $97, right? So that's how I know that. And if I hover over this, if I go back and bring the 97 here, if I hover over this right there, you see how the whole thing is sort of highlighted and it says span.order total, that whole area. So this is going to, presumably this little custom JavaScript variable script is going to help us to return back the price that we need. So I'm going to bring in our other tag assistant here. So you can see our other tag assistant. This is on the Infusionsoft site that we're doing. This is the other debug. So we're now running two simultaneous debugs because why not? And then I'm going to go ahead and pull up our price. Let me get our other, I'm going to get all three of these together here so we can keep it all nice and somewhat organized. There's our tag manager. Okay. So we have our tag manager price. Again, all I did is paste in his script. Okay. So that little script that was in there. And then we put in span.order total. So to go through and say, okay, here's where to go look. Actually, I take that back. I just realized I did not use his script this time, but you could. So you could. I did use his script. I have the wrong one. I just never copied it. Apologies. I'm getting too ahead of myself. Copy the script out. Because I like his script. I was like, wait a second. I thought I liked his script. So I'm going to delete this whole thing out. We're going to paste it back in. That's what I was looking for. So here's what his script does. It says, okay, it's a JavaScript function. Why? Because it's a custom JavaScript variable. Custom JavaScript variables use JavaScript functions. It's going to create a variable called price text. It's going to go into the document and it's going to go look for, query for a certain selector. And then what's that selector? That selector is what we did the inspect thing for. When I went and I inspected and it said, oh, in this case it was span. Delete this out here. it was span. Oh, that's interesting. I've just lost the ability to type on my keyboard. Well, let's try this out again. There we go. Okay, just making sure I get my... Gotta make sure you can type. That's why I love doing these things live, because, okay, that was odd. So span, easy enough. Got time to try to change the batteries on the keyboard, I guess. So span dot order total. Okay, so span dot order total. Where did I get this from? Again, I'm just going to show you on the cart itself. I went to the page, and again, I'm just using the order form. You can use whatever you want. Wherever you're trying to get it from, use the same technique. Right-click, inspect element. You can see right here. And then when I hover over it, it just tells you span.order total. See that? Span.order total. Just make sure it's case sensitive. Okay, case sensitive. Span.order total. So we're going to go through and we're going to set that up. Span.order total. And I'm just going to save it. In this case, custom JavaScript called it price, because that's what it is for this example. We're going to click on save. So now I'm going to come back up and we're going to preview, which we actually already have. And so when I previewed, I go into my variables. So there's my variable section here at any point in the variable on the page itself. And you can see here, custom JavaScript, CJS price, 97 without the $sign, which is exactly what I need. So then I can take this variable, pass it on to Facebook, pass it maybe into a data layer push for Google Analytics, maybe pass it on to Google Ads, or use it for whatever else I need it for. And remember, it doesn't have to be price like the actual price they paid for it. Maybe it was just like current price. And then I can check whenever there's an order bump that happens where they click on a box for an order bump. I could say, oh, well, when this box is checked, go ahead and using it like an all elements trigger or something, repush a data layer with the most updated price. And then this price will always update itself with whatever the most recent price is. So there's lots of ways to use this technique. Now, again, it's a little more complicated because it requires a tiny bit of JavaScript chops and get used to that. Win Google Tag Manager for JavaScript, by the way, JavaScript Basics for Google Tag Manager. We have that in the Measurement Marketing Academy as well, if you need to pick that up and get a little bit more used to the JavaScript format. But it works really well. And this is where guys like Julius, who's a speaker, by the way, at Measure Summit, it was awesome having him there. Analytics Mania, great blog post to go through. Simo Ahava's got a great blog post to go through. And of course, we've got the resources over at measurementmarketing.io as well. And just to bring this back, and I didn't show this code, but it works. This is the original code we used, is this. You can just copy this out and paste it in instead of the variable itself. You just put in whatever your order span is. In this case, it would be that span total. The difference is this would have returned $97, which is not always what you want. That's why I liked Julius's. And so when he published this, I was like, yeah, man, this is awesome. So I'm going to give him some love and send people his way. So again, he's like, here's a setup that you can use for this style format. Here's a setup. If your style is like this, you can use this one for that. And what essentially it's doing, just to walk you through it as we go through, is it is coming through here and saying, okay, we're going to grab the variable price. Here's what to go look for. Grab this value, which at this point, variable price would equal $97. And then it's saying, if there is a value, which of course there is at this point in time in the script, then go through and scrub out using regex. He's just saying, go look for only the numbers, return back the numbers. And that's what it is. It just returns back the price scrubbed using regex, looking for the numbers, and then it comes back with a clean 97. That's essentially what this is doing. And again, not overly important. You have the specifics. You don't necessarily need to be able to write this by hand, but when you're working with Tag Manager, it is useful to have some idea, at least a vague idea of how the JavaScript is working, so you know what it's doing. And again, you'll get better and better and better at that. You don't have to be an expert today, just be a little bit better than you were yesterday. That's all it really comes down to when it comes to this. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. You saw a bunch of different ways to grab price. There are lots more, I am sure, but those are some of the major ones. Whenever I've had to grab price, whenever our team has had to do it for a setup or helping a student figure out how to do it, one of those typically works. Again, it's either hard code it because that works for you. Use an integration because there's one available that pushes the information into a data layer. Or use a URL variable, passing that through as a parameter. It solves a lot of problems. Finally, custom JavaScript variables, or using even JavaScript variables technically, but custom JavaScript variables work really well to go through and then pull it from the page. They all have their pros and cons. They are all not 100% perfect. The very best way that I like doing it is the data layer. So if I can get a plugin or some sort of integration put in stuff in the data layer, that's what I do. If I can get somebody else to do it, like a developer, and put it in the data layer, that's what I do, because that's by far the cleanest way to do it. And then all the signals come from the data layer. It's my favorite way. But anyway, I hope you found at least one new technique that you can start to practice right away. Now, if you like workshops like this, next week's workshop is how to guarantee better reports and dashboards. It is a strategy session. We always rotate different topics. Again, this one's a little bit more advanced for people that have a little bit more skills. That's what it's focused on. Strategy sessions are really for people who are maybe not the implementer, but they're the ones using the numbers. And maybe as a strategy, you've gotten reports and dashboards that you didn't know what to do with or what they meant or how to use them. Well, there's some symptoms that cause that. So we're going to talk about that in next week's workshop, how to guarantee better reports and dashboards. So as you work with your implementation team, or maybe you are the implementer, you'll be able to report dashboards back that people actually be able to use. You got to subscribe. Just click right now on that subscribe button if you are watching us on YouTube, and you will be alerted, of course, as we go live and prepare the workshops for you. So you can go ahead and make sure you do that. Go ahead and take a moment to do that now. And you also have this other opportunity. And I would take this opportunity to join the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. Obviously, it's a shameless plug. I get that. You got to consider the source. I'm biased, but there's a lot of tools back there. And you just saw one of them, that JavaScript, custom JavaScript guide that we have back there. But there's also the traffic tracking toolkit. There's the GTM cookbook. There's things where you have regex if you're trying to learn regex and want to get your handle around that, or how to set up ACE goals, the marketing behavior toolkit. And there's so much other stuff that's back there, including obviously the weekly workshops. So you still have access to the most recent week that's back there. We sort of have that highlighted back there for our Toolbox members, so you can get caught up and you can go access the tools for Toolbox members. It is completely free to do that. That's why I recommend that you do it. It's just our way of kind of helping build the community as well. So you can help you do it. Measure.tips/WW is where you go, and then you just type in your name and email, and you got your account created. Simple as that. Now, if you do want to level up your skills, if you want to take the Win Shopify, right, for learning how to set up a Shopify store that we talked about earlier, if you want to take Win Google Tag Manager, JavaScript Basics, if you want to do any of that sort of stuff, Measure.tips/Get Academy gives you access to all of the different courses that we have. Basics of Tag Manager, Analytics. We have Beyond Basics courses for Tag Manager and Analytics, for Data Studio, lots of different strategy stuff. That page that will tell you it all, though. Measure.tips/Get Academy. And obviously we have support as well. So Ask Instructor support, you send us over videos and screenshots, and our instructors also send over videos and screenshots back to help you get unstuck. It's kind of like having a consultant on call. So Measure.tips/Get Academy will get you there. With that, we'll go ahead and bring this one officially to a close. This has been Beyond Basics, how to get cart value and revenue from your pages. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.